I'm Maddie Balla, the host of I Had No Idea, and we're coming to you today from the USA Science and Engineering Festival in Washington, D.C. Do you know an electric eel can produce a shock of up to 650 volts? I had no idea. Welcome to I Had No Idea, the show that features some of the cool and interesting people, places, and events that make the DC area such a great place to live. In today's episode, we take a look at many of the intriguing events and displays at the 2014 USA Science and Engineering Festival. The festival was the dream of Larry Bock, who told us about his vision in this interview. Larry, what's the most rewarding part of organizing this festival?
For me, it's when at 10 a.m. in the morning when people are streaming down the escalators on their way into the event.
And we certainly have a lot of people here this weekend so far. Tell me, where does your strong passion for science come from?
So I spent most of my career creating high-tech and life science companies. I started at 40 life science companies worth about $70 billion, and I could not recruit Americans to the advanced science positions at those companies. So my premise was society gets what it celebrates. So we celebrate athletes, pop stars, Hollywood actors and actresses, and we generate a lot of wannabes, but we don't celebrate science and engineering. So it was my goal to put on the largest celebration of science and engineering.
Terrific. And what would you say, what's your advice to parents or to schools that are trying to get kids more interested in STEM subjects?
Well, take them to a lot of hands-on, interactive, fun, and entertaining aspects of science. Science is hard, but it also is fun. But kids don't in schools generally get exposed to the fun part of it. So what we hope happens at this festival is they see the fun part of it, but then they walk away with scholarships, internships, mentorships, after-school programs that they can take that interest that they generate here and bring it home for the rest of the year.
And any most memorable moments or most memorable presenters from the festival so far?
Well, I tend to like things like Chris Hackett from the Science Channel, who creates weapons, scientifically inspired weapons to kill zombies in an apocalypse. That's my style.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful festival, and I'm sure the kids are really going to be encouraged in the STEM subjects. Thank you so much, Larry.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The festival supports the movement to increase the emphasis on the STEM subjects: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in our schools from an early age. Here are some clips from the time we spent at the STEM Zone display. So we're here in the STEM Zone with Michael, and he's showing some demonstrations to kids. We also have lots of hands-on activities. Michael, tell us about what we're witnessing here.
Okay, so here we are at Bernoulli's principle, and what Bernoulli's principle says is when airspeed increases, pressure drops. So essentially, if I were to drop this ball right now from right here, the ball should and would float. And as you notice, the ball continues to bounce up and down, up and down. The main reason for that is because the ball is trying to find the center of the air. And what it's doing is putting itself inside a lock. So what it is, you can see the air at the bottom, the top, and that's the reason why the ball moves left or right. So, for instance, if I move this cone towards the ground, the ball should and still float. But eventually, at some point, gravity kicks in and the ball falls to the ground.
That's very cool.
Thank you, I know, I try.
Excellent. And I saw you doing something, showing somebody a baseball as well with the beach ball. Can you show us that?
That is my final and amazing trick. I'll show it just for you. Yeah, baseball. Okay. Voila.
And this is all the Bernoulli principle, correct?
Bernoulli's principle.
So we're here with Vic, and it looks like he's doing some kind of experiment with hydrogen and cars. Vic, tell us about what you're doing here.
So today the kids that we have coming through our booth are actually using hydrogen fuel cell technology. And what they're doing is with a hand crank generator, they're generating enough electricity to actually trigger electrolysis in a hydrogen fuel cell.
So that sounds pretty cool. Can you show us?
Oh, absolutely. When they're cranking on this, they're actually creating a small amount of electricity. The electricity is flowing through these wires, and we have metal plates inside of our hydrogen fuel cell. One's a positive plate, one's a negative plate. Polarizing those plates, causing hydrogen to go to one side and oxygen to go to the other, and the electrons are trapped on the metal plate in the middle. So when you do that, you're actually creating almost like a battery or a fuel source that they can actually connect to a system of any kind that when you put a load on it, the electrons will flow, and that's electricity. And so what we're doing today is we're actually connecting these to race cars and letting the kids use that energy that they're collecting from breaking those bonds to actually power their race car down the track.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's fascinating. It sounds like a lot of fun for the kids.
Absolutely.
So let's go race.
All right.
To race. I've got a worthy opponent here. Let's see what happens.
Okay, quiet down. On your marks, get set.
Go! Go car! Woo! Go, 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 go! Oh, my car's so slow. This is all your fault. Welcome back to I Had No Idea and our coverage of the incredible USA Science and Engineering Festival. One of the more entertaining features of the festival was the historical figures who walked among the crowd. We met a very curious mix of historical and fictional characters during our visit. Here with Miss Frizzle and her magic school bus. Miss Frizzle, tell me where your school bus is going next.
Well, people who watch my show or read my books will know that what I'm wearing tells the audience where I'm going to be going next. So as you can see from my earrings and my dress, I'm going to be going into outer space next.
Well, that sounds very exciting. And how do you help kids learn about science with your books and with your show?
Science is all about exploring the natural world. So what I do is I help my audience and my class go right into the heart of nature, whether it's going into the human body, out into outer space, into the water cycle, whatever it is. I take them right there to the action, and we get to really live and breathe science and nature firsthand.
Do you have a favorite place that your bus has traveled to?
You know, honestly, every place that we go is exciting. I think that the natural world is just an amazing playground for a scientist. So anybody who is curious and really wants to know about nature will love engaging with the Magic School Bus series, because it's all about just exploring and answering your own questions.
Well, it sounds like a very fun and exciting way for kids to learn about science and nature. So thank you so much for leading our kids on that journey.
Thank you, and I would just encourage everybody to get out there and get messy.
Benjamin, tell me about your contributions to science.
Oh my goodness. I have explored many areas of science in the course of my life. I have dabbled in many, many fields just because I've been curious about things. And for anyone who is looking or is curious about Ben Franklin, you must know that Ben Franklin was curious about everything he saw. And that led him to discover, to ask questions, to read, to write, to find answers to all of the questions in his life about those things that he wanted to know. And that's probably the biggest secret of Benjamin Franklin.
And what advice would you have for children today who are interested in science, math, and those types of subjects?
Well, the same thing is true as with Franklin. Ask questions, make sure you understand, and if someone says something to you that you don't understand, make sure you ask a question until you know what they're talking about. It doesn't do you any good to not understand it. So ask questions, read, and find out for yourself. I think that's the best advice I can give. I have no idea what you would know or what children would know or what they want to know, but they must ask questions.
I think that's terrific advice for today's children, to keep asking questions and to make sure they're reading and exploring the world that they live in.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Benjamin Franklin.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm here with two astronomers. Can you share with me, what's your name?
My name is Caroline Herschel, and I was the first woman to discover a comet.
My name, excuse me, in English, my name is Tycho Brahe. I am an astronomer from Denmark.
And tell me, what have you contributed to the astronomy community?
Well, My astronomical studies were before the invention of the telescope, where astronomy was much more difficult than the upstart Galileo has discovered in Italy. But I have taken the most accurate astronomical maps of the day, which were eventually used by people who came after me, like such as Johannes Kepler, the neurotic German, who then used my observations to help set the stage for Sir Isaac Newton and his discovery of the laws of universal gravitation.
Wow, so it sounds like you did a lot of groundwork for later astronomers.
Indeed, I was turned on to astronomer very early in life. In fact, I lost my nose to the cause of astronomy. When I was at the University of Copenhagen, I was in an argument with a fellow student over who was a better mathematician, whereby it became a sword fight duel in the streets, and I lost part of my nose. And I decided to put down weapons of war and pick up tools of astronomy.
Well, thank you for sharing that very interesting story with me.
Thank you very much.
And you said you were the first woman to discover a comet?
Yes, ma'am. And in my lifetime, I then discovered 8, and the first comet is named after me, and I was accepted into the Royal Academy of Science by a friend, dear Joseph Banks. I worked very closely with my brother Wilhelm. We lived in England, though I was born in Hanover, which is in Germany, right near the Dutch border.
And luckily, you still have your nose.
Yes, ma'am. I never engaged in silly duels.
Yes, this is the reason why we need to have a more feminine touch in the sciences. In my day, there were no women in science, and it's nice to know that nearly 150 years after, women are making a name. And now I see as many women here at this great Congress of Science as ever. So we are very enthused to see that the full population is embracing the sciences.
Well, we thank you both for your wonderful contributions to science. I'm here with Luther Burbank, and he's going to tell us a little bit about who he is and what contributions he's made to science.
In the course of 70 years, I created, invented, or improved over 700 different flowers, grains, vegetables, trees, and bushes. You'll probably recall the Idaho potato. That was my invention. Iceberg lettuce, I created that. The Shasta daisy, which I'm wearing here, and the spineless cactus, and a blackberry bush that had no thorns. But the problem was I couldn't patent that.
Okay.
Congress didn't patent protection agency law until 1930, which was conveniently 4 years after I died.
Okay.
So all of the things that I had invented, improved, or created were quickly patented by the big seed companies who still are with us today, selling my products under their name.
Okay. Well, even though you may not be remembered for all your inventions, we do greatly appreciate having those products around today. So, of all the stage shows and presentations given over the weekend, Keith Michael Jackson, or the Bubble Man, was a crowd favorite. We had a lot of fun watching him make all kinds of crazy bubbles and explaining the science behind it. Here's our short chat with him as he was preparing to do his second show of the festival.
Yes.
Why bubbles?
Why bubbles? I think bubbles are fascinating. The most fascinating thing for me is that wherever you go in the world, people are fascinated by them.
That's very true.
It's fascinating.
And what's your favorite trick that you do with the bubbles?
I like to put helium in bubbles, and I attach a little wire at the bottom and can float things up to the ceiling. And so I get to watch everyone's mouths open up as they watch. So I'll take 20 seconds and just watch the audience, and I can look up their noses that whole time.
I bet I would be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I saw that you put a bubble in a jar. Tell me about that.
Eiffel Plasterer was around the middle of the last century, and he had the world's record longest living bubble, 340 days. One of his tricks was to put them inside of a jar so that they would live longer. So I try to share that history with during the show.
That's pretty amazing and something I definitely didn't know. Tell me just a little bit about the other types of presentations that you do.
Sure. I do bubble shows. I've been full-time since '86 doing other shows about math, history, science, reading history. I mentioned that, history, but it's history. And I tour around usually elementary school audiences.
Well, thank you for the wonderful work that you do for our kids. And thank you, Keith, for speaking with us today.
Sure. Make bubbles.
One of the best things about the festival was the wide array of displays, presentations, and characters you could visit. For instance, we met Miss California. We also met the family who invented Kinects, as well as a scientist who's dedicated his work to studying the paranormal. Let's take a look at their interviews. Tell me how your brother Joel invented K'NEX.
He actually invented it in 1990. And it was a way, we have an injection molding company. We make lots of things out of plastic, billions of parts out of plastic every year. He wanted to come up with an idea that would use a lot of plastic parts. And his main idea was, well, toys use a lot of plastic parts.
Absolutely.
So based on that premise, he started messing around with parts, and we have an injection molding company that allows us to create whatever we want. And he came up with a situation with 45-degree angles and 22 major parts, and based on that you can build almost anything, including the Ferris wheel that's behind us.
And that Ferris wheel is very impressive.
Very impressive. It has over 8,500 pieces in it.
About how long would it take to build that?
Well, it would take probably 25 to 30 hours for an experienced K'NEX person, and someone who's new to K'NEX maybe about 35 or 40 hours.
Okay. Are there any new products or innovations coming on the market with K'NEX that you could tell us about?
Well, we have a lot of things that are under development at all times. Every year we bring about 30 products to market. They end up in retail stores and online. We also have a complete education division, which is what we're doing here in Washington today, which stresses STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And our whole product line developed for that is associated with what is happening here today.
Well, that's fabulous. And they certainly do look like a lot of fun.
Well, they are. They were intended to be fun.
Well, thank you so much, Bob, for speaking with us today. Enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you.
Tell us about your K'NEX educational product line that focuses on science, technology, engineering, and math.
Well, our education product line is different than our retail product line in that these sets all have curriculum. So we are indeed teaching science, technology, and engineering math concepts to students in the classroom as well as consumers at home.
Terrific. Can you give us some examples of building kits that are involved in this line?
Absolutely. We do everything from basic math at the first grade level to simple machines at the middle school level, bridge building, engineering, physics behind amusement park rides, renewable energy, roller coaster physics, and even DNA.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of exciting topics. Are schools really investing heavily in these, or is it mostly selling individually to families?
No, our sets are sold exclusively through educational catalog companies. And school districts are really looking at this point in time for hands-on materials where students can actually do science and not read about science.
So, Maureen, you told me that these renewable energy kits are some of your favorites. Can you tell me about how they work?
Absolutely. Here we have a couple models going. You can see this windmill is being powered by this fan, which is then generating power for this small ride right next to it. It shows students how renewable energy sources, while they might not be available, like solar energy at night, you can indeed store that energy for use when it's not sunny outside. In addition, we have solar energy set. These sets are running off, these models are running off of these solar panels here. I mean, look how cool this is. It shows students the opportunities that we have with renewable energy and allows them to compare and contrast the different types of energy to see what's going to be best for our future.
And Maureen, what do these kits tend to go for?
Well, what we've done with these particular sets is we have a classroom set that would be purchased by a teacher that supports multiple students, and then we've also reduced the size of the sets to make them more appealing price point wise for consumers. So a renewable energy set would be about $200 for the classroom, but a consumer could purchase them for anywhere from $59.99 to $69.99 to use at home with their own kids.
So, tell me about how you use STEM as your platform for the Miss America pageant.
As Miss California, I actually spend most of my appearances and most of my time going to schools, interacting with children, essentially doing whatever I can to get the message out about STEM being a fantastic, viable career option for young girls especially.
And that's such a wonderful thing. Did you have any role models yourself, any females involved in STEM who inspired you?
Yes, my mother actually is the only woman on her software IT team at work. So for 20 years, I really saw how strong she was, and she was a role model because I knew that even if you were the minority on your team, you still do have something to bring to the table. My job as Miss California now is to really be the kind of role model that I wish I had, someone younger, more relatable, and my mom was fantastic, but then again, you know, parent-child relationships can be kind of tough. It's important to have external personal role models as well. So I really love this because being able to see these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young students with the world ahead of them, being able to catch them now and to remind them that they can do it, it has been really fulfilling for me, because I do think that in a few years we'll start to see more engagement in STEM from both young men and young women.
Absolutely, and it's terrific that you're able to share that message as Miss California. And you're very young in your career still. What aspirations and goals do you have for your future?
So I'm 22 years old right now. After my year as Miss California has concluded, I probably will pursue a job in the technology industry in the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know beyond the next 2 years what's going to happen, but I do have certain lofty aspirations, including to start a company, being a founding team, to basically generate something from scratch, because I think that learning process of getting something off the ground is very interesting to me, and I've read a lot of stories of founders doing that and that challenge, and I really want to try my own hand at that.
Well, thank you. It sounds like you have a lot to offer, and congratulations again on Miss California.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Crystal. Do people ever get upset when you debunk some of those paranormal phenomena out there?
Yes, there are certainly cases where people get upset because they're making a living by, pretending to do the impossible, and they don't like that interfered with. And also some of the, the pseudoscientific gobbledygook spreaders get upset when, I point out that some of the nutritional advice that they're giving is not scientifically sound. Neither I nor my colleagues care about what decision is made, as long as the decision is made based on science and evidence, not on they say, not on hearsay, or not on emotion. And many of the decisions that get made now, even high levels of politics, are really not based on science.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival. Thanks for joining us in our coverage of the 2014 USA Science and Engineering Festival. Our visit was filled with exciting displays of new technology and fascinating applications. We learned how a touch screen really works and how accelerometers move the desktop screen on your tablet. We also learned how Penn College in Williamsport, Pennsylvania took a wrecked Firebird and Camaro and actually combined them into one super fast electric drag racer.
Yes, here we have one that illustrates the touch screen and how the touch screen works. So basically what we have here is an electronic component called capacitor. Capacitor is made out of two different plates, two different layers of glass covered with a metal. And every time we touch the screen, we're putting in contact together. We're touching the two metal plates. And just sure. And there is something you can send from this that is a little harder than touching your real phone, right? And that has to do with the size. This is it's so big compared to what you have on your cell phone.
So this is simulating my smartphone I have at home, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
And the air gap in between is big. In your phone, the air gap in between the layers is so small, so every time the touch is light. It's not as harder as you're doing here. But the idea is the same. You are moving charges from one plate to another, okay? Now, sensor have a fixed metal plate and a mobile one. And every time we flip or turn the phone, we are completing different circuits. And we're moving charges from one plate to another. Now,
the electromotive dragster. Tell me about it.
It's a fully electric dragster that operates on a 288-volt ion battery. It uses a direct drive motor to turn the back wheels. It makes about 400 horsepower, and we estimate it to go about 150 miles an hour.
Wow, that's fast. Jackson, what is this particular car being used for right now?
Well, this is actually two cars combined. This is a Camaro and a Firebird in the rear. Our body shop welded it all together, so it's two different cars attached at the subframe. But this car is used simply for drag racing.
And right now, this particular one is also as a learning tool for your students, is that correct?
Yeah, we worked in conjunction with the electrical engineers at Penn State. They did the actual design and we did the actual build.
Terrific. Well, thank you for telling us about the car today, Jackson. It's a pleasure meeting you. We're almost done with our coverage of the 2014 USA Science and Technology Festival. Among all the things to see and do, one of my personal favorites was when we visited with a group of student inventors who were there to show off their work. If these kids are any indication, the future is indeed bright for our country. Here's Sophia from Watchung Hills Regional High School in New Jersey, and she's brought some of her students to the Science Festival today. Sophia, tell us about what your students are doing here today.
These students work on research projects that run for anywhere from 1 year to 3 years long. For the show here, each group of students designed demonstrations based on their expertise, their own science expertise, and their experiments. And they designed these demonstrations to be appropriate for children of all ages, 5 to 95. They're probably the only exhibit here that is entirely designed by high school students.
I'd be really excited to see some of what they've come up with. Can you show me some of their experiments?
Sure.
All right, so Emily, you've invented this new toothbrush called Super Smile. Tell us about it.
Well, this is a toothbrush that actually prevents cavities from forming on your teeth. So when bacteria initially attach to your teeth, they kind of clump together and form dental plaque. And this dental plaque is really hard to remove. So no matter how much you brush, there's always going to be bacteria on there. And what happens is it actually releases lactic acid. And that breaks down the enamel in your teeth, and that causes cavities, have to drill holes. It's no fun. And we want to prevent this whole thing from happening in the first place. So we have here the Super Smile. So what this actually does is it uses electrical methods to prevent the bacteria from clumping together by poking holes in their membrane. So the bacteria, which now have holes in them, can't clump together and form the plaque, which causes the cavities, and therefore your teeth are going to be healthier.
Well, that's really exciting, because I know everybody wants to go to the dentist a lot less, so this would be a wonderful invention.
Yeah, definitely.
I understand you have a provisional patent out there for this Super Smile?
Yes, we do. The provisional patent is the first step that we kind of put our idea down on, but after a lot more research, we hope to file for a non-provisional patent.
So what plasma can actually do is it changes surfaces, and that can be helpful in all sorts of things. Right now, we're actually changing the surface of steel. So steel can become a little more hydrophilic, which means water sticks to it. You'll see the water droplet is a little more like this, a little more like a circle, and this one will lie much more flat on the surface. The body may actually accept something like that a little bit better if there's water that's a little more hydrophilic to it.
So is that the main area where this type of research is used, is in prosthetics?
Also another way to show that the surface of the metal changes. It actually also disinfects the metal. Bacteria and microbes are killed using the electric field and the plasma because it makes holes in the cell wall of the bacteria.
Well, congratulations on getting to showcase it today. So we've had a great time here at the USA Science and Engineering Festival in Washington, D.C. And we'll see you next time on I Had No Idea.